Hey shawties, welcome. We're gonna be doing my 2024 reading wrap finally. I'm also super hungry, and I'm also gonna be doing my makeup. There's gonna be a lot going on right now, but bear with me. I read 20 books in 2024, which I'm so excited to talk about. I feel like I read pretty good reads. Some of them were mid. Let's get into it. This is just a light pile. Here, let me back up with it. Of the books that I read, this isn't everything, of course. I read 20. I don't have 20 books here, but some of them I listened to audio. Others I read the ebook version, so that's why I don't have all the physical copies here, but I will post like a little photo of what book I'm talking about, so you know what I'm talking about, you know? And just as a reminder for anybody that's new here, if you have any specific questions for me, just message me on like any of my socials and I'll try my best to answer them. I do work for a tech company, so there's a lot of like tech stuff that I can't answer. Oh my God, I look like a psycho right now. You know, because I'm not trying to get fired or anything. A girl still needs to eat. So if you have any specific questions about like, I don't know, tools that I use or what I read or what I used to read on or how I listen to certain things, like just go ahead and message me and then I'll try my best to answer them. Okay? Okay, so starting off strong, one of my favorite books right now is Fourth Wing. So I actually started reading this like at the end of 2023, but really like in 2024, and I absolutely love this book. I definitely gave it 5 stars. It was just a really great reintroduction into the fantasy genre. I literally hadn't read anything fantasy since like I was in probably elementary school. I'm not even gonna lie. I think that was like the last time that I truly read fantasy books, and it was the Percy Jackson series, which I freaking love. It's like my favorite. That's actually what started me like getting into reading. I love Percy Jackson. But I hadn't really read any fantasy since then, and this book just really did it for me. I know it's super popular right now in like social media, and right now with Onyx Storm being out, like it's all over the place, but honestly, sometimes the bandwagons are just right. Like sometimes the bandwagons just know what they're talking about. And in my opinion, I feel like Fourth Wing and the whole Empyrean series is definitely a bandwagon that you want to hop on because it is so good. It is so good. I even got my boyfriend to start reading it, and he is not a reader. Like, this man, he reads, but his favorite genre is, like, personal growth. So, I'm not going to yuck his yum because I'm not going to be a hypocrite from my reading tips video, but it's, like, he really went from, like, strictly reading about business and, like, personal growth to now he's, like, fully like bought into fantasy, and he's currently reading Iron Flame right now actually, but it all started with Fourth Wing. So I want to give that book 5 stars. Also, if you're wondering like what my rating system is or like what I would consider a 5-star book, because obviously not everybody is going to have like the same rating scale that I do. So when I talk about a 5-star book, I am giving it 5 stars because I either feel like it changed my outlook on life, or it was something like unique that I had never really read before. Another 5-star book would be like something that like just like really ponders in my head, or that I can't stop thinking about. Like if I'm still thinking about that book for, I would say, over a week, then I'm gonna give that book 5 stars, because that just tells you like that, like what the impact was, and that I'm still thinking about it. There's been a couple books where I will like read and I'm like, they're cool, and I like it, and I think about it for that day or maybe the next day. But then after that, I'm just like, all right, moving on. And then I'll move on to the next story or the next book that I'm reading. But Fourth Wing was not like that. Like I read it and I was immediately obsessed. I was yearning for these characters. I started to miss them. I would be like, oh my gosh, I wish I was still like in that world. And you know, I wish that I was still like following the lives of like the characters in the book. So that's also why I rated it 5 stars. So just so you know what the vibe and like the rating system is gonna look like here. I'm also gonna be giving brief descriptions of like what these books are about, but nothing that's gonna spoil the plot for you. It's just simply like an excerpt or like what you could find on the back of the book. So Fourth Wing is about a girl named Violet, and she's forced to enter like the military, or what the equivalent of the military is in this world, which is a writer's quadrant, because her mom is like the general and her sister's this like badass like military fighter. But she was actually raised to be a scribe her whole life. So she's not like a badass by any means. She's also described as like super weak and frail, like not a fighter by any means. But she's forced to join the Writer's Quadrant, and she essentially has to survive. And the Writer's Quadrant is like this super deadly like military school, and a lot of people die. More people die than they graduate from the school. But then she'll have the opportunity to bond with a dragon and kind of just like serve in the Empyrean, which is just where they live. However, obviously things go awry when she starts discovering things about the Empyrean that may or may not be true. So then you kind of just follow like her journey. And there is a enemies to lovers trope, which I love. I'm a sucker for enemies. I am a sucker for enemies to lovers. I love that trope so much. Because I feel like enemies to lovers always have like the hottest smut scenes. Don't judge me. Yeah, so that is what I love, and I really loved this book. So if you're into like fantasy, dragons, like that kind of thing, I think you're really gonna love this book. So definitely pick it up. 5-star read for me, for sure. Okay, so moving on, we are gonna be talking about The Inmate by Frida McFadden. So The Inmate, I actually listened to the audio for that one. And essentially what this book was about was this girl who is like the main character, and she's all grown up now. And there was like this guy who she had like a thing with back in high school. But then he went to jail because he tried to kill her. And now she's kind of just like living with that trauma of like her ex-boyfriend who like tried to kill her. But then she moves back to like her hometown. I don't even remember why she moved back to her hometown, but she moves back to her hometown, and she obviously starts seeing people from like high school and like people that she just knew back in the day. And she comes across this old friend of hers who tells her that it might have not actually been her ex who tried to kill her. I don't know, something like that. And he's like rotting away in prison. So, or maybe he convinced her of that. Yeah, I can't remember. But anyway, so now you can see why I gave this book 3 stars, because I think the premise was kind of cool. Like, oh, like this person tried to kill me, but maybe they didn't, question mark, like, you know. So that's why I picked it up. I thought like the premise was super cool, and I love me a good mystery. That's actually what I like started reading when I got back into reading. But I don't know, like the plot just kind of fell short for me. And there is a plot twist at the end, and I think it was an okay plot twist. I thought it was kind of weird. I was like, oh, I don't know how much I like that. That's kind of creepy. But I mean, it definitely had me hooked, and I was like listening to the audio all the time. I would be like doing the dishes, and I'd be like, I don't know, like folding my laundry or whatever. Sorry, my lighting's going out. But like it had me hooked. So I gave it 3 stars because it did what it was supposed to. It had me hooked, and it was entertaining, but I didn't necessarily like keep thinking about it after that. I like read it and I was like, oh, well, that's how it ended. That's kind of cool. I thought about it for like the rest of that day, and then yeah, I kind of just never really thought about that book again. But I think that if you're into, I mean, like Frida McFadden is a really famous like mystery like author and like thriller author. So if you're into that, I think that you might be super into her books, because they're all like really similar. It's like the plot line and then just like a crazy twist in the end that like nobody saw coming. I didn't see this twist coming, and I feel like I'm pretty good at like seeing what's up ahead, and I didn't see it coming. Maybe you will, but if you're into kind of like not so serious like murder mysteries and thrillers, you should read Frida's work. there's like plot holes, but you know, whatever, like you're there for a good time. So that's kind of what that book was giving. So 3 stars for The Inmate by Frida McFadden. Okay, so the next book that I read after The Inmate, clearly I wanted to try something new, something different, something funky, fresh. So a friend recommended that I read A Touch of Darkness, which I have right here. And this book, it was pretty good. It was pretty good, not gonna lie. I originally rated this book 3 stars like a fucking clown. But now that I think about it, I think I rated it 3 stars because I was embarrassed that I liked it that much. I think I really liked it and I was just too embarrassed to admit it. But we're throwing embarrassment out the door. We don't feel shame on this channel. So I'm gonna be real. I'll rate it like 3.5 to 4 stars. I feel like 4 stars is like a really high rating, but I think I liked it because it follows like the love story of Hades and Persephone. Obviously, this love story is very spicy. There's a lot of spicy scenes, but I really liked it. It was like one of the first books other than Fourth Wing that I had read that had like spice, and that was like a big thing in the plot. So I think I don't know, it was like different for me. I really loved it. I had an amazing time. I also listened to the audio, strictly listened to the audio for this. I think the audio was kind of good. Like some people say that like the audio is kind of cringe and like the voices are cringe, but I thought that it gave the book character and I absolutely loved it. I tried listening to this at work and I couldn't do it. I was like, nope, we're not doing this here. I am playing music. I'm watching something online that is PG because I can't sit here and listen to this right now. I feel dirty. So yeah, if you're like kind of introducing yourself to spice or you want to try out like a spicy book and you've never read like spice before, I would recommend A Touch of Darkness. Oh my god. Not it. See, but it does have a plot line. Like it's not just, you know, like I loved it. I think that's like my guilty pleasure now. I might pick up the rest that is in the series. I might not. We don't know. Okay, the next book we're going to be talking about is Bunny by Mona Awad. I loved this book. I went ahead and gave it 4 stars only because, again, that was just me being petty and I was really confused at the end. But then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, okay, this book did have me thinking for a while. Like 2 weeks after I read it, I was still thinking about it and I was like, what? Like, I need to like know more, or like what are people like, what are the theories? So I did so much research. I went online. I like read every possible theory that's out there. If you have one, leave one in the comments because I'm obsessed. But essentially Bunny is I want to say it's not really I don't even know what genre this is. Maybe it's a thriller. It was giving fever dreams, so we're gonna call it a thriller. I have no idea what this is, to be honest, but maybe you can look it up. But essentially, Bunny follows a girl. She is in like a prestigious like writing program, and this class is super exclusive. So she's in there. It's herself and then these other girls, and they call themselves the Bunnies. And it's giving like Mean Girls, like of the plastics, but like the bunnies, and they call each other Bunny, like Bunny this, Bunny that. Oh my god, Bunny, you look so cute today. Oh my god, Bunny, what are we doing after school? Like that kind of thing. Essentially, like a bunch of weird shit starts happening. So like we're talking maybe magic, but is it maybe witchcraft? Like they start just doing some crazy shit, and the main character is kind of like, am I like tripping, or is this actually happening to me? I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to give it away. But this book does have a super ambiguous ending. So if that's not your cup of tea, if you like to be told like how it ends and it needs to be clean. Sorry, I'm like talking so fast. 1 second. Sorry, this book just like makes me want to go crazy. But yeah, if you like clean endings, this book is not going to be for you. You're not going to like it. All of the negative reviews I see about it online are people that were expecting the ending to be like wrapped up in a cute little bunny bow, but that's not the case. So if you're open to feeling like you had a fever dream and then still not being sure what was real, what was not, and what the hell even happened, you need to pick up this book right now. You need to pick up this book right now, and you need to let me know what your theories are, because I have one, and if you'd like me to do a deep dive, I'm so down. I feel like I'm gonna reread this year, because I should have probably rated this 5 stars, but no, we're gonna keep it at 4 because I want to do a reread, and then maybe I can put together like a what the fuck even happened in here, these pages, like, yeah, maybe we'll do that. Let's do that. I'm also obsessed with e.l.f. If you haven't noticed, all of my makeup is e.l.f. And I'm obsessed with like brown stuff. So I have like brown liners. My mascara is brown. Like the blush that I'm using is kind of like a terracotta color. I have a pink one. The pink one's super cute. It's this one. But I was just feeling more like tame today. So I love brown. I'm obsessed. Alrighty, so the next book we're going to talk about is Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. Yeah. This little gem right here. I picked up this book. You know how they say, like, don't judge a book by its cover? Well, I judged. I love this cover. I think this cover is gorgeous. I was just like, huh? Like, yeah. I think I also picked up Bunny because the cover was, like, cool and I liked it. But this book, I ended up giving... I gave it 3 stars. And let me tell you why. So, cover, gorgeous. I think the story was cool too, but it just felt like so much happened for absolutely no reason. Like, maybe I just can't see the reason. Like, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't for me. But essentially, this book follows this friend duo who is technically a trio, but they're mostly a duo. And they meet a long time ago when they're kids. And they meet again later, like in the future, once they're in college. And they decide that they want to build like a video game together because they're big gamers. So you kind of follow their life and then like them going to school and then them building the video game. And eventually they do make it big and they create this like video game and so on and so forth. So you follow their life, and a lot of things that are discussed in the book are like a lot of moments of like grief, a lot of tragedy. But I don't know if my heart is just made out of stone, but I saw so many people online saying that this book made them cry and this book like broke their heart and it made them so emotional and yada, yada, yada. And I wanted to be destroyed as well. I signed up for that. I signed my name, and that's what I wanted, and I didn't get that. And I don't know if I should be concerned. Maybe I should call my therapist and tell her, like, Gwen, and this book made me cry. But I don't know. It just, like, didn't do it for me. So, same thing. It's, like, it was cool. Like, I liked the story, and it was nice while it lasted. But ultimately, it didn't really leave an impression on me the way I wanted it to. I feel like anything that I rate 3 stars or higher on this channel, you should definitely give a try. Because not that I hated it and I didn't enjoy it, but I just felt like maybe the book just wasn't for me. And I didn't enjoy it as much as other people are going to or will. What I did really love about this book, though, is just like, it was kind of cool to watch them like design the game, and I learned a bunch of stuff about like gaming design, and I'm sure that there's intricacies that I still don't know about gaming and what it takes to design a video game. But I'm not gonna lie, those were some of like the most interesting parts in the whole book. If you're like a gamer or if you love video games and you just kind of want a book that's like about that, definitely pick up Tomorrow, Tomorrow, and Tomorrow. Like I said, I enjoyed it. It was cool and I had fun while I was reading it. But once it ended, I just did feel very like, okay, that was cool. I feel like that happened for no reason, but whatever, that could just be me. I also realized I never told you guys why I'm even doing my makeup. I'm gonna go out with my friends later. We're gonna go to Boiling Crab. I'm so excited, and I know my lipstick is totally gonna come off, but I just like wearing makeup. I think makeup is so much fun. Okay, America's Best Receipt. Okay. Shout out. Okay, so the next book we're going to cover is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. So this book I gave 2 stars. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for anybody that loves this book. This was like me attempting to get into romance because I just am not like normally a romance reader. Like, I like when the romance is in the book, but I don't necessarily love when the book is all about romance, or I don't think I do, at least. I don't know. This is really the only romance book that I gave a chance to. So maybe leave me some good recommendations where like the romance is that good that I'm like yearning. So let me just give you the synopsis of what I thought I was gonna come into. So this book follows the main character, and she is an author, and she's like a spicy author. And what I was promised was that she was going to have a meet cute with the man that she used to have a thing with back in high school, who is also an author. And apparently for all these years, they were essentially writing to each other through their books. Sorry, my light keeps dimming. What I was promised is that yearning, right? That like, oh my gosh, they were speaking to each other in the books the entire time. And I did get a little bit of that, but like very little. Like, I just felt like this was such a good opportunity to, I don't know, just make it like so like, please just give each other another chance. Like, that's what I wanted to feel, and I didn't feel that. Like, I didn't get that at all. Like, I thought like their meet cute was still cute. Like, their little, romantic montage was cute. And then also when I found out the reason why they like stopped speaking in the first place and why it didn't work out in the first place, I was like, really? Like, okay. I don't know. It was just very like, it just felt flat for me. I read this one in my e-reader and I was just like, trying to get through it because I wanted to know, like, oh my gosh, give me some of this like book content that you guys are writing. Give me the yearning. Give me the reason why like this like is a second chance romance. Like, why didn't it work out the first time? And then when I got it, I was like, all right, if that's what you want to go for, then all right. But ultimately, it just fell flat for me. I don't know. So after that romance flop, I decided to pick up Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And I was so excited because it was supposed to be kind of like a horror, like, like Gothic story. And I was hyped. This book followed the main character who his sister is like married and she lives like in some other part of Mexico, but they haven't heard from her recently, and they think it's really weird because their family is like really close knit. So she tells her dad like, hey, we should like see what's going on with her, and her dad's like, you know what, great idea, you should go over there and check on her. And she's like, what, do I have to? And then he's like, yeah. So then she goes over to like her place to check on her, and obviously strange things are afoot. Things are not how they're supposed to be. Her sister is very ill. She's very sick. She can't really do like her day-to-day stuff. And of course, our main character suspects of her husband. And it's like, what's wrong with my sister? Why is she so sick? Like, why are you keeping her from us? It's giving very like abusive relationship, which is initially what her sister thinks is going on. But of course, things are not what they seem, and supernatural shit starts to happen. So I gave this book 3 stars because although it wasn't terrible, there was a missed opportunity. I just think that the supernatural things that were going on could have been better. Like, I don't know. It didn't scare me. It didn't like make me feel some type of way. It didn't make me feel like afraid at all. I was like, okay. Also, the characters just felt very one-dimensional to me. Like, I don't know, I feel like their motivations weren't that strong. Like, their personalities were not that strong. I almost wish I gave this book 2 stars, but I guess I gave it 3. So we're just going to stick with the 3. Yeah, I really don't have much to say about this. I kind of forgot about it instantly after I finished reading it. I was like, all right, like, bye. After that, I was like, okay, I'm still waiting to be bamboozled. I'm still waiting to be scared. I still want to fear for my life. So I picked up my first Stephen King book ever, which was 1922. And I thought this book was pretty good. I gave it 3 stars as well. Simply because I think it was way too repetitive. It was a little novella. It wasn't very, like, long. And even then, I felt like the book was just repeating itself. Like, I thought the premise of the book was really good. It follows our main character who really hates his wife. He thinks that she's, like, the most annoying person in the world. And she wants to move to the big city. And they live in a farm. Here comes Nani Chobani wanting to play just when I need to do this. So it follows this husband who essentially just really hates his wife. He thinks that she's so annoying and she's always nagging at him. And they live on a farm with their son, but she is so tired of living on this farm and she just wants to move to the city, and she won't take no for an answer because she owns, like, the deed to the farm. So then he's just like, oh my gosh, I love this farm. I want to stay here. I hate this woman. She makes me miserable. So what does a man do when he's tired of his wife? He kills her, I guess. That's the only answer. That is just the way the cookie crumbles in this book. And sometimes in real life. So he's just like, honestly, fuck this bitch. He kills her. And he, like, also involves his son. He, like, convinces his son that they both need to team up and kill her. But essentially, like, he kills her, I think. I already forgot. Whatever. Don't worry, these are not spoilers. This is, like, on the back of the book. So, and you kind of go from there. And he is just kind of dealing with the consequences. And then spooky shit starts to happen. There's rats involved, so if you're not a rats person or a rodent person, maybe don't read this book. But the reason I gave it 3 stars is, again, I think Stephen King did a really amazing job at, like, developing the characters and, like, their motivations and how they feel and, like, how they deal with what they've done. But it just felt a little bit repetitive to me. It was, like, always, like, the same things over and over. I felt like the conversations were just repeating themselves. There's no progress being made, whether that was, like, good progress or bad, in favor of these characters. So that's kind of why I gave it 3 stars. It just wasn't, like, I don't know. It wasn't what I expected, like, a Stephen King book to be. I don't know if this is a popular book or not. I just picked it up because I thought it looked cool. And it was, like, nice and short. And a lot of Stephen King books are, like, really long. And I just didn't know that I could commit that much because I'd never read any of his work. This didn't discourage me to read his work. I think that I'd definitely be open to reading, like, some of his more popular stuff. So after trying to read horror and then flopping immediately after the romance flop, I was just like, you know what? I need something that is just gonna blow my mind. I need something that is gonna save me because I am this freaking close to hitting, like, a reading slump because everything that I was reading was just so mid at the time. So what did I do? What would any sensible woman do in this situation, you ask? Let me tell you right now. I went out and I picked up Loud by the one and only Drew Afualo. I fucking love this bitch. I'm honestly so grateful. I think this is, like, one of the best things that came out of TikTok. I absolutely love her book. I love her content. I love her. I love her book. I love everything that she stands for. And if you're not a fan of her, then bye. You can leave my channel because I really love her. I picked up her book and it was everything that I expected it to be and more. I gave this book 5 stars. I think this is definitely, like, a memoir / like, self-help. I think, like, the whole premise is for those who are recovering pick-me girls, which is what Drew calls it in the book. And I just thought it was funny because I think, like, I don't know, maybe this is not a shared experience, but I think that I was a pick-me when I was, like, in high school or when I was younger. Like, I just feel like I craved so much attention and especially, like, male validation at, like, such a young age, just simply because, like, the media told me that that's what I needed and that's all that I, like, could want. Like, that's all that any woman would want, you know? And And even though like I don't feel that way anymore, like I don't feel like that any longer, and I've recovered from my pick me era, I still thought that this book like was super relatable because sometimes you think you're fully recovered, but then there's things that you do in your life that like continue these patterns. So she talks a lot about that. She talks a lot about her motivations as to like why she does what she does on the internet and why she chooses to call out horrible men in the fashion that she does. So I think that like if you are either a recovered pick-me, a currently recovering pick-me, or simply just somebody who needs a little bit of like motivation or just kind of like that big sister like voice, or even that motherly like voice to tell you that you are enough and that you have what it takes to do whatever it is that you want to do in life, and do it confidently and do it with your whole chest, definitely pick it up. I really can't recommend it enough. 5 stars. That's all I gotta say. So the next book on the list is going to be Chlorine by Jade Song. I really love this book. This book was such a fun read. I read this in August, and it was a perfect time. I also love to like seasonal read. Like I like to read books that kind of fit the season. And I picked up this book because the cover is just gorgeous. Like let's take a moment to look at this cover. It's absolutely stunning. I love it. And it gives away a little bit of what the book's about. So I'll kind of let you look at it real quick. So yeah, I don't know. So I really love this book because it follows this girl named Renyu, and she's a competitive swimmer, and she is an amazing swimmer. Like she is probably the best swimmer on her team, but this girl has almost like the Mamba mentality if it was like toxic, because she will do anything to gain the praise from her swim coach and from scouts, because she's like trying to get the scholarship, and she is just completely obsessed with swimming. But the main reason why she's obsessed with swimming is because she grew up with a mermaid obsession. So she also wants nothing more than to become a mermaid. I won't say any more because I really want you to like go into this book with as little as possible, because this book is weird and it is intense, and ultimately I think it's like, did all that really happen? Like, is this for real right now? But I think it was beautiful, and I think that it was a really beautiful coming of age story. Again, this is written from like the female gaze and the female perspective, and the female experience, and I loved it. I think that I could relate to it as well. I think there were some parts that were sad, and some parts where, like, as a woman, you think like, oh my gosh, I did kind of feel like that during this time in my life. So I really loved it. I gave it 4 stars. I still think about it sometimes. I didn't give it 5 stars because it's not something that like keeps me up at night, you know, but I thought it was a really fun read. I really enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun reading it, and I was like, Ren, you fucking crazy bitch, like you're fucking crazy. Alrighty, the next book we're going to be talking about is First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston. I'm like trying to read it from my notes here. From Ashley Elston. I read this on audio as well, and let me tell you, it had me hooked. This is why I rated this book 4 stars. So it follows this girl who is kind of like down on her luck, you learn. She just has like a little bit of money trouble, you know, family stuff going on. So she is like I don't want to say she's an assassin. She's not necessarily an assassin, but she's kind of like a private spy, and she doesn't know who she works for. Her boss is like this like robot voice that she talks to on the phone, but she works for him essentially, and this organization where he just hires a bunch of people that are like stealthy, and they do different jobs, and maybe sometimes people die, maybe they don't. And essentially, this girl is dating this guy, but she's not really dating him because she likes him. She's dating him because she's on a job to kind of follow him and like watch what he's doing. And this guy's a very successful dude. He owns like a really successful business. I can't remember what he did, like what his business was, but essentially she's kind of like there as a plant to like stalk him and to give information to her boss about this guy that she's dating. And essentially things don't really go as planned. Like, things get a little bit edgy. They're like, oh shit, is she gonna get caught? Who is her boss? There's a lot of unanswered questions. And I thought that this was really good. Oh yeah, so she goes to this like party and somebody like recognizes her from like her past life, which she has like scrubbed, because in order to do this job you need to pretty much like scrub your personality. So she's kind of like afraid, like, holy shit, am I about to be caught? Like, what the fuck is going on? So anyway, it's really good. It's a thriller mystery, and I freaking ate it up. I gave it 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 because it wasn't like totally mind-blowing. I think the plot twist I saw coming, I was like, yeah, I thought this is where this was gonna go. But I still enjoyed it nonetheless, and I would definitely recommend it, especially for somebody who's maybe getting into like the mystery genre. I think I would recommend this because it was super easy to follow. But the plot was a little like twisty-turny, so it made it really fun. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and I definitely suggest to pick it up if you haven't done so already. The next book we're going to go ahead and review is Iron Flame by Miss Rebecca Yarros. My boyfriend is reading it right now, so I only have the little cover. But I liked this book. I really did. I'm just going to go ahead and admit it to all the haters out there. I really liked it. I give this book 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 because it did start off really slow, and it was a little bit boring in the beginning. I will give everybody that. But I think like after a certain point, it just picked up, and I could not put it down. And it was like, I would say like the first half was super boring. The second half is when it like really took off. And looking back, I'm reading Onyx Storm right now. Looking back, it did give me a lot of information that I needed, but maybe not all the information that I needed. So that's why I also didn't really give it 5 stars, because it was kind of like okay, I just have to get through this because I'm like, Onyx Storm is literally coming out in January. And I think by the time I read this, it was like September. So I was like, oh my God, like I was freaking out. But essentially this is the second book in the Empyrean series following Fourth Wing. And it just kind of follows like Violet's journey yet again, and I can't really give a synopsis of this one without giving away and like spoiling the first book, so I won't. But just know that it is the second book in the Empyrean series, and I still recommend that you read it. I have some friends who are reading the series and they DNF'd this book because they're like, no, I can't. I'd rather just watch like a summary online. But I just don't think that that's enough. I think you need to get through it. I think that reading Iron Flame is like a rite of passage in order to read Onyx Storm and to continue the series, because I promise you, like, a summary is not going to do it justice. Like, you need to be there, and you need to follow what happens to Miss Violet Sorrengail and like her journey in this crazy world. And the ending, bitch, I don't even want to think about it right now, actually. I'm kind of getting a headache just thinking about it, and I don't want to have a headache, so yeah, we need to be done. So after being emotionally destroyed by Iron Flame, I needed to read something that was cozy. I needed to save my soul. I needed to save my sanity. So, of course, I went ahead and, where is it? Right here. I went ahead and picked up Legends and Lattes. I love this book. The author is Travis Baldry. But I loved this book. I feel like this book gets a lot of hate online because people are like, this book was okay, but it wasn't like profound. It's not trying to be, okay? It's really not. Look at this book. Does this book look like something that's trying to be profound and change your life? No. Come on. I just want to like on your head. Look at it. Let me tell you what this book is about. This book is about our main character, which is this baddie right here, and she wants to retire her life of crime. Not really crime, but like So she's looking to retire her life of bounties and bloodshed, and she wants to hang up her sword and start fresh. So what does one do when they want to kind of like retire? They open a coffee shop, of course. But in this book, coffee is not really like a known thing. It's like a gnomish delicacy. So not a lot of people know what coffee is in this world. So I absolutely loved it because it was just like the cutest little like read. Like when they describe like them making a latte for the first time and like the description of what a latte is and what it smells like, what it tastes like that kind of stuff. It was just so warm. It was so cozy. I gave this book 4 stars because, again, it didn't like change my life, but I wasn't expecting her to, okay? If you want this book to change your life, then you need something else. Like, you need probably professional help because this book is not going to do that. It's going to make you feel warm. It's going to make you feel cozy. And it's going to be a fun read, okay? I do play D&D with some friends, so I'm pretty familiar with, like, D&D lore. But I just feel like this added to it. And I really liked that about it. I don't claim to know everything there is to know about D&D. I'm not even that good. I'm not that good, but I knew a little bit, and this just, I don't know, it just made it so much cuter, and it made me want to dive into the lore a little bit more. After I finished this book, I started playing Baldur's Gate immediately because I just couldn't get enough of this world, and then I still didn't finish it, so here we are. Anyway, I think that you should definitely pick this up. I read this also in September, and then I finished it like the beginning of October. So it was just a really cute, cozy, like fall read. Again, I'm a seasonal reader, so I really love to read books that kind of match with the seasons. So I would say this fall, if you want something cozy and just cute and nothing so serious, pick up this book. It's heartwarming. It's cute. What more can you ask, honestly? Alrighty, so after I finished Legends and Lattes, I read None of This Is True by Lisa Jewell, and I hated it. I give this book 1 star, and I am just as surprised as the next person because one book that we won't be reviewing in this wrap up, but let me see, when did I read this? I read Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell back when I was like first starting my reading journey, and I really liked it. I thought it was cool. I thought it was like clever. I thought like, I don't know, it was like fun. It was a fun time. So I thought that this book was also going to be super interesting, and I just couldn't wait for it to be done. Like, I hated it, and I still can't really understand why. Let me go ahead and tell you the premise. So the premise follows this lady, and she just kind of has like a sad life. It starts off with her birthday, and she goes to this like fancy dinner, and her husband's like not really happy to be there. He's kind of like, ugh, like whatever, because they don't really do like nice things. But at this dinner, when she goes to the bathroom, she runs into her birthday twin. So she meets this other woman in the restroom, and she realizes like, oh my gosh, you're here celebrating your birthday, so am I. So it turns out that they have the same birthday, and they're like, oh my god, that's crazy. And yeah, so then they part ways and they go home, whatever. And then later she realizes by like looking up this woman that she's like this really famous podcaster, and she has this really interesting life. She looks up like her digital footprint and just like stalks her online. So now our main character is infatuated with this birthday twin of hers, and then convinces her, later she reaches out, and convinces her that she should do a segment on her podcast about birthday twins. Anyway, they decide to work together, and they're working on this podcast, and that's really all I want to tell you. Then shit starts to get weird, things get a little creepy, the like main character unveils things about her life and her weird husband that is just really off, and yeah, it turns into like a almost like stalker situation between these two women, because our main character is pretty obsessed with her birthday twin, and it kind of goes from there. So I thought, again, what a great concept. Yeah, this is like really interesting. Oh, and then throughout the book, you also it like kind of fast forwards to like the future, so it like skips timelines a little bit, so you know something bad is gonna happen because then somebody else is covering this story as if it was a true crime, so you know something's about to go down, but you don't know what it is yet. So all these things are things that fit in my niche so well. I love true crime. I love true crime podcasts. I'm actually a big fan of Crime Junkie. And I was like, yes, this is right up my alley. Lisa Jewell, you've never failed me, but this time you fucking did, because I was so bored. And it just kind of reminded me so much of 7 Days in June, where I loved the premise when I like read what the book was about, but then once the story got going, I just couldn't wait for it to be done. Like, I was just like, this isn't what I was promised, essentially. But yeah, I listened to this one on audio because I read the sample, and then I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Maybe if I listen to it on audio, it'll be like creepier. And no, I just found it so annoying. And I was really stubborn. I didn't want to DNF this one for some reason, because I thought that it was just going to get better, and it never did. So I bamboozled myself. I'm a clown. And now here I am talking about my clownery. But I don't know. I feel like maybe if you're a fan of Lisa Jewell's work, you might really like this book. This is probably a 1-star that I would say you should give a try if you want. I just feel robbed. I feel like the picture on the menu was not what was served on the plate, if that makes sense. But yeah, that book was just not for me. So after the atrocity of none of this is true, I needed something safe, and I needed something quick, and I needed something that if it bamboozled me, I wasn't going to be upset about. So I dove into poetry. I haven't fully finished a poetry book in the past, and I thought, what better time than now? So I read 2 poetry books. The first one being Save Me an Orange by Haley Grace. I actually ran into Haley's work on TikTok, so you should look her up. She has amazing poetry. Like, it makes me cry whenever I see her come up on my For You page. I think her work is beautiful, and I think I'm going to keep buying her poetry books because, like, they're really good. I was also bamboozled, though, Haley, if you're watching this, because you had a beautiful poem on your TikTok about how much you love your sister. And if you know me in real life, I fucking love my sister. I would die for her. I would take a bullet for her any day. She is my person, and she always will be. And I love that girl to death. So Haley had this beautiful poem about about her sister being her first love, essentially. And I absolutely loved it. And this is like the first time I ever came across her work. And in her description, she wrote that her poetry book was out. So I thought that poem was going to be in this book, and it wasn't. You fucking played me. But sorry, I had to burp. But nonetheless, I still really enjoyed the poems that are in here. I highly suggest you look her up on TikTok, because her stuff on there is really good. Let me see if I can find one that I really liked. I found one that I tabbed that is not necessarily short, but I thought it was so beautiful. And this is just to give you an idea of the kind of poetry she has in this book. It is a lot of coming of age poetry, and poetry about love, and poetry about her family dynamic with her parents, things like that. But I felt like this one in particular was so beautiful that I'm like, yes, I need to tab this. Let me go ahead and read it to you. It says, people ask me what I want to be when I grow up, and I think they're looking for something tangible, like a teacher or a psychologist or an accountant. But when I grow up, I want to be kind. Regardless of all the bad things that have happened in my life, I am not those bad things. I have the ability to wake up every day and be one thing. I can choose to be kind. I still have a while left on this earth, and it can be pretty evil. I mean, I was forced to grow up at a young age, seeing things no child should ever see, and hearing things no child should ever hear. Some of my friends now tell me I'm their comfort person. When they need to rant, they come to me, or are looking for advice, or just someone to talk to. I think I needed someone kind growing up. Pick it up. Go buy it. Go buy it. There was another one that was in there it cut me so deep, because I was like, how do you know this about me? How do you know that was me? I can't emphasize enough, like, please go find her on TikTok. Like, I don't know, like, look at her first video and it'll probably make you cry. So, Haley, I'm a big fan. I love your work, and I will be buying your next poetry book. I think she already has another one out, so I suggest getting both. Haley, I love you. All right, the next poetry book that I picked up was Being a Woman by Mia G. Wolf. And again, this was like highly recommended on TikTok. I get a lot of my book recommendations on TikTok. But this is highly recommended there, and I really loved it. I tabbed a lot of it, as you can tell. Maybe you can tell. So I'll do the same. I'll go ahead and try to find one that I was like, oh my god, yes. So this is an example of the kind of poetry that she writes in this book. And again, obviously the title is Being a Woman, so it's mostly about the women experience. But I really liked this one. I tabbed this one. I liked a lot of them. It was really hard for me to pick just one. But I feel like this is a good, like, representation of the kind of poetry she writes in here. So this one reads, "You think the blood that paints my thighs is a turnoff. But look at your video games and violent porn. Nobody bats an eye when a boy blows somebody's head off online. But girls are still hiding tampons up their sleeves." The reason I gave it 4 stars was because I really liked it. And I still think about some of this poetry, like, even when I'm just kind of randomly thinking one day. The reason it wasn't 5 stars is because I feel like some of the poetry was a little bit simple. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't know anything about poetry, to be honest. I'm not going to claim to know it much. But I think that I really wanted something like bars, like something like catchy, something to stick. And there was a lot of really good stuff in there, but nothing that was like super profound, or nothing that I didn't already know. If that makes any sense. I don't know. It's like hard to describe. But I feel like 4 stars in this case is like equivalent to 5 stars. Like, I still really recommend this book, and I think that everybody should pick it up and everybody should read it, because some of the poetry is really dark. Some of it is like a lot lighter. Both of these books were really good, and it was kind of like my full introduction back to poetry. But yeah, I look forward to maybe reading some more poetry this year. If anybody has any suggestions, please leave them in the comments. And it could be poetry about anything. I just felt like these 2 were safe and I was going to like them regardless. And remember, I just needed something to bounce back from after I read. None of this is true. So, sorry. I hate so much on that book. It really wasn't that bad, but not for me. That's for sure. The sun is going down and I'm losing all my good lighting. So, let's get to it. So, the next book that I read was Babel by R.F. Kuang, and it's because I fucking hate myself, okay? Here she is in all her glory. I did buy the physical copy because there were so many positive ratings of it online. I was like, there's no way all these people are lying to me collectively. So, I went ahead and picked it up, and I was not disappointed. I did tab this book as well. And you saw, we went through almost the entire archives, and not many of them were tabbed, but this book, yeah, there's things going on in here. So I gave this book 4.75 stars. And the reason why I didn't give it a full 5 is because I felt insulted. This book did make me feel dumb. It is very dense. It is hard to read. At least for me it was, okay? Let's all remember that I'm not the intellectual that you probably think that I am. I am simply just a girl who likes to rot in my room and read books and pretend that there isn't a whole world going on outside of these walls, okay? So let's remember that. I'm not a scholar. I'm not an intellectual, and I never claimed to be. So, Babel was a little bit of a hard read for me, and I didn't have the audiobook until, like, the end of the book. That's when I started listening to the audio, the last, like, 100 pages, I would say, because I didn't have it for, like, majority of the read. But it was just so beautiful, and it was still so insightful, and the magic was really unique, the magic system in this book. But anyway, before I say anything more about it, this book follows our main character. He is adopted by this professor who is a professor at the University of Oxford, which is obviously a prestigious university. And he adopts this boy, and this boy doesn't even really know why. Like, he just comes to his hometown. His mom has died of like a disease, and he's just kind of like, come on, kid, like, you're coming with me. So he takes this boy with him back to London, and he kind of raises him as his own. But when I'm talking like raising him, he does not raise him like, oh, you're my son and I love you so much. It's like no, you are an intellectual. Like, you will study every single day, and this is why you're in this house, and you're going to make it to Oxford University, and you're going to graduate, and you're going to be like a translator, which is what the whole book is about. So he's like he does end up doing just that, and he's like this bookworm, and he really likes to read, and he is studying the art of like languages and like translating languages. So you kind of follow like this whole like Robin's journey and like discovering the injustice that kind of goes on in this world and with this magic system. And it's really phenomenal. Like, it's such a good story. I was hooked immediately. I know some people said it was a little bit boring in the beginning, but I didn't think so. Like, I was hooked, and I needed to know like what was going to happen next. And yeah, there's just a lot going on. I don't want to spoil it for anybody that like wants to read it, because it's just like that good of a book. I'm considering picking up The Poppy War, which is R.F. Kuang's book that she wrote prior to this, because it kind of also follows like a similar theme, and I'm just like, I'm super intrigued. She's an amazing author. I also decided to read this during the month of October leading into November. And as we know, in November of 2024, we had the presidential election. So when I said that I fucking hate myself, I was not lying. I read this book while the elections were going on, and the parallels that I was experiencing between my fiction world and my real world, it was devastating. It was absolutely devastating. But yeah, like I said, I just fucking hate myself. And it was like the wrong time to read this book, but also just the best time to read it. It just really shows you that everything in life is political. I don't care what you think, and I don't care what you say. I don't do politics, or like, politics isn't for me, or I don't really dive into that. It's like, no, babe, you do, and you should, because it affects everybody. Okay, like, let's just cut the crap. And reading has always been political. It's been about nothing else. If you have ever read the freaking Hunger Games, if you've read Percy Jackson and the Olympian, like, I was radicalized as a kid because I read this and I could see the parallels. Like, everything is political. And this book doesn't fall short of that. And I cannot recommend this enough. I feel like a clown. I want to give it 5 stars now. But I'll just keep my 4.75 star rating, because, like I said, I am stupid, and it was hard for me to read, and like I read it really slow. So yeah, I was butthurt about that. But that's fine. It needed to be done. I would do it again. You know what I mean? And one other thing that I will say about this book before I let it go, I'll read you a quote, and it's not going to spoil it, but I feel like I could relate so much to this during the time that I was reading it, is once, our homeboy Robin kind of sees like the controversy and there's a little bit of corruption. He kind of goes through a similar thing that I feel like most of us go through, where it's kind of like, I'm just one person, and I'm trying to survive in this shitty world. Like, is that so wrong? And I feel like this quote like embodies that. So he says, Babel was the reason he belonged in England, why he was not begging on the streets of Canton. Babel was the only place where his talents mattered. Babel was security, and perhaps all that was morally compromised, yes. But was it so wrong to want to survive? That's literally me sometimes. Like, I look at the news and I'm just like, I can't. Like, sometimes, like, my algorithm online, it gets a little too political, and I just can't handle it, so I choose to, like, turn it off and, like, start watching Bob's Burgers or something, because at some point, I think all of us, at the end of the day, we just want to survive. We just want to be able to live and to pay our bills and do whatever it is that we need to do in order to be good and just be happy and enjoy our little adult hobbies. Like, I think ultimately everybody has the same goal. The book did a really good job at kind of going back and forth. It's like feeling that way, but then ultimately, like, do you just want to feel that way forever, or are you going to do something about it? So anyway, I know I've, like, yapped about this book this entire time. But I just, yeah, it's just so complex, and it's so beautifully written. So I really think that you should pick up that book, like, yesterday. And then the results of what was going to be our election started to roll out. I decided to do just that. I decided to rot away and never to be seen again. So I picked up The Paleontologist. Because I just couldn't. I was like, I need to, like, dissociate from this world. But The Paleontologist, I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was pretty good. Like I said, not the worst, but also, like, not the best. It was just, it was what it was. And this book was super interesting because it goes over our main character, who as a kid had a mom with mental health issues. So they didn't grow up in the best situation, him and his younger sister. But he was always obsessed with dinosaurs growing up, and he loved going to the Natural History Museum that was, like, nearby. But one day, his mom gets tickets for them to go to this museum, and she sends them by themselves. Because remember, she's not a good mom. So she's like, here you go, here are these tickets, go knock yourself out, take care of your sister, bye, like, leave me alone, I'm gonna do drugs. So then our main character goes to the museum, and then his sister gets kidnapped and goes missing. And he kind of just goes his whole life not knowing what happened to his sister. His mom eventually got super ill after that happened. Obviously, like, her daughter got kidnapped, so mental health kind of went down the shitter after that. So, yeah, so now he's an adult, and he is a paleontologist, and he goes back to work at the museum where his sister once went missing, truly in hopes to just find any clues as to, like, what happened to her, or like what happened. There's paranormal things that happen in this museum. Things are not always what they seem. And I thought it was a really fun read. Like, this is one of the 3-star reads that I wasn't, like, mad about. I saw the plot twist that was coming. Like, after a while, I was like, okay, I know, I get it now. I could see what's gonna happen here. But I wasn't mad about it. It gave me what it was promised. Okay, like, I knew what I was getting from the back of the book, and it's what I got. Nothing more, nothing less. We give it 3 stars, and we move on with our life. But I thought it was really cool. So if you want something, like, think of, like, Night at the Museum, but, like, maybe a little scarier, like, not PG, like, not haha funny, like, it's more, like, a little scary, I would pick it up. And, like, obviously it's sad. There's, like, some sad moments. But yeah, if that's, like, kind of your vibe, then I would definitely pick up this book, because I had a lot of fun reading it. I was like, ooh, I'm, like, reading through this at night. I would stay up at night, like, reading it, finding out the clues, like, oh my god, is he gonna find his sister? Is she still alive? Is she not? You know, all the things. So I really liked it. So next on our list is going to be The Graveyard Shift by M.L. Rio. So I gave this book 1 star. I hated this book. Sorry, that was actually really mean. Let me wind it back. So maybe it just wasn't for me. Okay. I gave this book 1 star because it's supposed to follow this, like, group of people who are not really friends, but they kind of are friends. But the only reason they know each other is because they take, like, smoke breaks at this graveyard. And they all work in different places, but they all meet in this graveyard around the same time to take a smoke break from their work. And then, like, one day they come to the graveyard, and this graveyard is, like, abandoned, by the way. And one day they come, and there's, like, a freshly dug grave. And they're like, what the heck? That was not there. Who is digging a grave here? Why is there a grave? And then, yeah, so they're just trying to figure out, like, who put that there. they see what's inside the grave, which I won't give away. And they're just kind of trying to figure it out. And each chapter covers like a different perspective from a different person that was there that night. So you kind of get that like multiple POV, which was kind of cool. But I just feel like nothing in here made sense. Like, okay, I don't know. I know I'm not giving you much right now, but I just, like, when I was reading it, I was kind of like, all right, like, let's get to the point. And I feel like we never got there. So yeah, I was just like disappointed. And then on top of that, the ending is like an ambiguous ending too. And I think it was supposed to be thought-provoking, but there was no thoughts in my head. Not a single thought was in there. My brain like lost its ridges. Yeah, and I see a lot of really good reviews of this book online, so maybe it's just me. Like, maybe I am the problem, and I'm the villain. And maybe you shouldn't listen to anything that I say. But if you know me and you want to borrow this book, I will let you borrow it. Okay, I will let you borrow it. It cost me $17, and I wish that maybe I would have bought the ebook version because it probably would have been cheaper. Because I am sad that I paid so much money for this book. I'm so mean. But I'm just trying to be honest. But yeah, if you know me, I'll let you borrow it. And then you can decide for yourself and tell me if I'm the villain, I'm in the wrong, and I'm an idiot. Or you can side with me and then we can both be haters together. Yeah, let me know. Let me know if you want to borrow my book. Okay, so one of the last books that I read in 2024 was the one and only Caraval. I love this book. The author's name is Stephanie Garber, and I freaking love this book. I ate it up. I think I finished reading this in like a week, and I just had so much fun. This is a YA book that follows these two, like, I don't know if they're like princesses, but I guess they're like kind of princesses, and they live on like an isle, and their dad is like the governor of this isle, and there's this thing called Caraval, and it happens every so often, and it's essentially like a performance. They call it a performance, and you can either be part of the audience and watch the performance happen, or you could be a player and participate in the performance. And there is a prize and like an objective. So it's kind of like going on like a giant scavenger hunt almost, like picture it that way. But it's giving very like carnival, Mardi Gras, like themed. I don't know. Just think of like that, something crazy like that. So our main character has always wanted to attend Caraval, but you can only be invited to this. You can't like apply, or you can't just like buy a ticket. Like, you have to be invited by the Caraval master, who no one knows who that is. Like, their identity is like protected. And so she writes to the Caraval master like pretty much her whole life. Like, she's always writing letters, and then finally she gets sent 3 tickets to Caraval. Decides that she does go to Caraval with her sister, and then shit just absolutely hits the fan. You're not really sure what's real and what's not. Before you enter Caraval, the first like instruction is like, don't take this seriously, because this is just a game, this is just a performance, and nothing that happens here is real. So they're under like strict instruction to like not take it so seriously. Like, this is all just a game, it's pretend, haha, hee hee. But some of the shit that happens it feels very real. So anyway, go into this just kind of like head first, honestly. I think the more confused you are, the better. And I ate it up. I was like, I need to get to the bottom of this. I don't know what's real anymore. Am I being bamboozled? Am I not? Like, what is going on? And also, I think the reason I had fun reading it was because I was taking my sister to school at this time. I'd like pick her up and then like take her to school and do all that. So in between, while I was waiting for her to get off and I was gonna pick her up, I was like reading the book. So then when I'd pick her up, I would give her an update like, oh my God, this happened. Oh, now this happened. And now we're doing this and blah, blah, blah. And she was just like so shocked every time, and it was so funny. And she was like just also reading along with me, I guess. But I was just explaining to her what was going on. So it was a really fun read. And I actually already purchased the second book because this is, I believe. And the second book is Legendary, which I have not read yet. This is on my TBR. I'll probably read this after Onyx Storm because I want to finish this series as soon as possible. My one critique about this book, I gave it 4.5 stars. And the only reason I gave it that was because I wish that this book was not YA. Like, this book is young adult, so nothing too crazy in terms of, like, what happens. There's not a lot of spice in this book, if not any. And the crazy things that happen, like, they are crazy, but they are kind of tame. But I just feel like if this book, like, this idea is so cool, I almost wish that it wasn't YA. So that way it could just, like, freaking, like, go hard. You know what I mean? Really done. That's it. That's 20 books that I just wrapped up for you guys today. If you made it this far in this video, I truly thank you. Because I'm a yapper and I love to yap about everything, especially books. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. Also, leave me any video ideas in the comments that you'd want to see. Any recommendations as well. I will take all the recommendations that I can get. My TBR list is very long, but I see it as a blessing, okay? This just tells me that I have a lot to look forward to. But anyway, like I said, thank you so much for watching this video. And thank you so much for supporting just my little slice of the internet. Remember to always take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!